Today, we're going to talk about a part of human anatomy that, for centuries, has basically been hiding in plain sight. It's an organ many of us think we know, but it turns out it's almost completely misunderstood. So let's get into the hidden world of the clitoris.
So let me just start by asking you this. What if one of the most familiar parts of the human body was actually a secret? What if, say, 90% of its structure was totally invisible to the naked eye? Now, this isn't some kind of sci-fi thought experiment. It's a real anatomical fact that pretty much rewrites what most of us ever learned in biology class.
You know, if you were to crack open a textbook, you'd probably find a definition something like this. And look, it's not wrong, not technically, but it's missing almost the entire story. It's kind of like describing a massive iceberg by only talking about the tiny little tip you can see sticking out of the water.
Okay, so let's start with that visible tip, the part that everyone recognizes. This is what most people are picturing when they hear the word clitoris. But as you're about to see, this is just the very, very beginning.
This external part, it's called the glans. You can find it right where the inner labia meet. And get this, it is incredibly small. We're talking an average of just 3 to 5 millimeters across. So this tiny little button is what most people have mistakenly thought was the entire organ for, well, forever. But it is so much more than that.
All right, now for the really cool part. Let's pull back the curtain and explore the hidden 90%, this vast internal structure that has been almost completely ignored by anatomy for centuries.
Remember that iceberg analogy? Well, here's the rest of it. That visible glans is really just the command center for this huge, complex structure that reaches way down deep inside the body, woven right into the pelvis.
This number right here really puts it all into perspective. 90%. That means that almost the entire mass and structure of the clitoris is internal. It's kind of mind-blowing, right? An organ so central to the human experience has been almost completely hidden from our view.
And we're not just talking about some simple root either. This internal structure is incredibly intricate. You've got the body, which extends back from the glans, and then it splits into these two legs, they're called the crura, which actually wrap around the urethra and the vagina. And then you have the vestibular bulbs, which are like these two spongy bundles of erectile tissue sitting on either side of the vaginal opening, just waiting to swell with blood. It's a whole system. So we've seen the hidden structure, which is amazing in itself. But what really makes this organ one of a kind? Well, it's not just the shape. It's the unbelievable sensitivity. This thing is an absolute epicenter of sensation. Now here's where it gets really interesting. For years, the number everyone quoted was around 8,000 nerve endings. But very recent research has actually updated that figure. Scientists have now found over 10,000 distinct nerve fibers packed into just that tiny external tip alone. Science is always learning.
To put that number into perspective, think about your own hand. The main nerve that gives feeling to your palm and fingers, the median nerve, has about 18,000 nerve fibers. But that's spread out over a huge area, right? The clitoris concentrates more than half that number into a space smaller than a pea. It is, without a doubt, the most densely nerve-packed, sensitive part of the entire human body.
And all of this brings us to our final point, which is probably the most remarkable thing about this organ. Its incredibly unique purpose. Think about it. Every other organ in our bodies has some primary job tied to survival or reproduction. The heart pumps blood, the lungs take in air, the liver filters toxins. But the clitoris, it just stands alone. Its only known purpose in the human body is pleasure. That's it.
So let's just do a quick recap of the really big takeaways here. First, biologically, the clitoris and the penis are basically twins. They grow from the exact same embryonic tissue. And just like the penis, it's made of erectile tissue that swells up with blood during arousal. For most women, stimulating it is the key to orgasm, making it the undeniable center of female sexual sensation.
So we'll end with a final thought for you to chew on. Knowing that such a significant, complex organ was overlooked for so long, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How does knowing the full story change your view of the human body? And maybe more importantly, what other amazing truths are still out there, just waiting for us to discover? Thanks for joining me.